Today I'm doing a short video of some of the equipment that I use to melt with. Some of the torches that I've tried and some of the problems that I've had. Here's one of the torches that I've tried. It's a propane grass burner. It doesn't got a lot of high BTU output, but it doesn't really do the job. I've also used some of the smaller normal torches that you see at the hardware stores. You want to stay away from the ones that have plastic candles on them because they will melt and fail, because it does take a period of time to actually melt it. What I have found that works are the Burns-O-Matic TS8000s. I was using one for a while, but what problem I would come into is when the silver would melt, it'd pool up into the bottom of the melting dish. These are the hand melting crucibles. It'd pool into the bottom of the melting dish like this, and the crucible basically sucks all the heat out of the silver, and it solidifies into a pool and gets stuck in the crucible, and it'll break your crucible when the crucible shrinks after it expands and contracts. After it's done expanding from the heat, it'll try to contract, and the silver won't allow it, so it'll crack your dish. Now, using one of these torches takes me about 10 or 15 minutes, and that was one of the problems I was running into. So then I added this torch. I would use this torch to basically heat the crucible and keep the crucible hot, and then it was excellent. It worked awesome. So I went out and I got a second Burns-O-Matic that I'm going to mount in a vise and avoid the problem of having to hold two torches. This torch here I'm going to be running on either a small propane tank or a MAP tank with the extension. That way I don't have to worry about, the bottle tipping over, or when a bottle gets low, it's sputtering and giving me any problems. And then for the majority of the melting, I'm going to be using this Burns-O-Matic 8000 mounted to a charbroil. I believe it's a 4 or 5 foot extension hose that goes to my barbecue tank. I would highly suggest using one of these because they're cheaper to fill, and with the combination of that, basically the two torches, it'll allow you to run a little bit cheaper on the MAP gas. The extensions for the normal torches to the normal tanks run about $16 at Menards or Home Depot or Lowe's. I haven't had any problems with it at all. I see a lot of negative comments on these, bursting or swelling. A lot of guys will come up here and put a hose clamp on here, give it a little bit extra security, because any little bit helps. And then you want to keep these out of the heat in the summertime because they say that's when the hoses will burst on them. And I only leave it connected while I'm melting. That way I don't run into problems with the hoses failing. And I would highly suggest these Burns-O-Matic 8000s. I have a buddy, Silver to Burn, Uncle Bernie. He suggested them, and he was dead on right. He suggested I added a second one because I was having this problem with the first one. And so I added this second grass burner torch here, and he was absolutely right. That silver, it just sucks the heat out of everything. Here in northeastern Ohio, it's about 50 degrees today, and with the way thermodynamics work, the cold air just sucks the heat right out of the silver, and I'm not actually able to melt anything. I have a couple fire bricks on the way where I can stack them around in kind of a kiln or a furnace shape to help keep the heat in better. I'm just waiting on those to arrive, but I use one fire brick to set it in, and here's one here where I use KO wool to set it in. You don't want to set it on any normal bricks because normal bricks may have a little moisture inside and they could break or explode when you're using them. You definitely want to use the right tools. You need high output torches. I actually prefer to use oxyacetylene, except it's so expensive. It's just expensive equipment to keep around and replace when you need to. The hardware store refills these barbecue tanks for about $8, I think. The MAP gas tanks, I believe they're about $10 or so. But running the setup on a barbecue tank will help you conserve having to buy the MAP gas all the time. And the MAP gas will just give you a little bit of extra kick. That way you're able to keep it molten when you go to pour. Because doing it this way, I've noticed the instant I take the torch off that silver when it's in a molten ball, it tries to solidify again. And it takes about 10, maybe 15 minutes to get 4 or 5 ounces liquid enough to pour, even with both of these torches. With oxyacetylene, we can get it liquid and molten, 5 ounces of 0.99 in about 90 seconds. That's why I prefer that. And I've actually built a little furnace, a can furnace, with a cup crucible that I'm going to be experimenting with in the next video. Stay tuned. Like and subscribe if you like the video today. There will be a lot more to come just as soon as it warms up out here, and I'll actually be able to melt something. Alrighty guys, stay tuned.